In this video, I hit my thumb with a hammer, and I do more body and paint work even though I said I wouldn't. Welcome back to my 1996 GMC Sonoma Minitruck build, and in the last episode, we painted the interior and removed the flywheel. If you're new to this channel, please check out the first few minutes of that video. I do a quick recap of all the things I've done so far in this build, and you can access that with the link above. Before we get started, I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers and my Facebook and Instagram followers. You're the ones that give me the motivation to push through and complete this build. So thank you very much. In the last episode, I mentioned I don't want to do any more body work or paint work for some time, except there's one spot which is over here on the firewall. I'm not going to work on that now. Instead, I'm going to focus on the engine and the transmission. I got the flywheel resurfaced. It looks really good, so I'm happy with that. So before I put it on, there's one thing I need to take care of, and that is I want to replace the pilot bearing. And maybe longer than that, 5 years, 7 years ago, I tried to remove that, and there are methods to use either bread or grease and push it out. I wasn't successful with that, but what I've recently learned is that on LS engines, there is an oil galley plug behind that. And by using the grease or bread method to pop out the pilot bearing, you could actually pop out the oil galley plug. I don't know if I did that. Like I said, I wasn't successful. So I'm hopeful that I didn't mess that up, because that's going to be a bit of a pain. But to know for sure, I'm going to have to remove that pilot bearing. I have a tool on order to help me remove it, clean out any of the grease that I had behind it, and then we can see if I did any damage. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for that tool, I'm going to clean up this area. I'm not going to show that because I realize in a lot of my episodes, I'm doing a lot of cleaning. So I'll talk about what I'm going to clean and what I'm using it, but I won't bore you with me actually doing the cleaning. The second thing I'm going to work on after I clean up the inside here is replace that clutch slave cylinder. I already have one, and I'm hoping it's an easy replacement. So I cleaned up as best as I could over here, but the slave cylinder is blocking some of the area, so I have to take this off. Then I could finish cleaning. It won't come out the best because of all the valleys and galleys, but better than it was. Might as well take the time, since I actually have the time, to do a bit of cleanup. It looks like the slave cylinder is held on by 2 bolts with 10mm heads, so should be pretty easy to pop off. Except it's hanging up on here. Doesn't make sense to take off the casing just to get to it, or maybe you do. I know I could probably drive this pin out to take this part off, and that might be easier than taking all the belt housing bolts off. So I might as well try. I might not have a small enough punch, but I might as well just try. It's moving. Okay, that's as far as I can get that in. The pin is sticking at the back, so hopefully I can grab it and just yank it. So here's my stupid idea for the day. I'm going to use this 1/8 drill bit as a punch to get that pin out. I do have a drill sharpener, so I know I'm going to dull it and I can sharpen it at a later date, I'll just mark it so that I know that this isn't sharp anymore. Or maybe I'll just keep it with my punches. It's bigger than I need, but it's a shorter handle. That could be a stupid idea. I gotta get this out. I guess the hole's tapered. Might as well try drilling it out. No, I don't think that's gonna work, but I'm almost there. I've given up doing it the wrong way. I'm going to take off the bell housing. You probably can't see it, but I'm just taking off the bolts. There must be a pin around here. Oh yeah, there is. Oop. You can see the pin I was trying to pop out. But it's out. Should have done it the right way the first time. Alright, so years ago I bought a new slave cylinder for this because this end was cut or something like that, and because I'm going to be using a aftermarket master cylinder, which is from a Willwood, I was going to use a end line from the master to the slave. So when I picked this up, I actually popped out that pin that I was struggling with before and put on a AN3 fitting on the end of it and then hammered the pin back in. So I was successful years ago, not successful this time. And I wouldn't have to take off the bell housing because it's shorter. I got to figure out how I'm going to connect that on afterwards. I should be fine, but that means I'm going to have to connect that before I put in the engine, and I don't have that. That's a problem I'm going to have to solve sooner than I thought. Should have done it the right way the first time. Now I am missing a bolt. These bolts are black, and I had one of these that were connecting the belt housing to the engine, and there's two missing at the bottom. So I took that one, and I'm going to put it on one of the bottom holes, but I'm still missing one. I have a box of transmission pieces that came with this transmission when I bought it, so hopefully it's in there. I won't bore you with me putting this together, so I'll come back when it's all done, since you can't really see anyway. Okay, so I have the belt housing torqued to the transmission, except for one bolt, which is over here. That's missing, so I gotta pick that up. And before I attach this to the engine, I probably should get this line on, which means I need a fitting for that and the line. So I gotta guess how long I need and probably overestimate. If I'm getting AN fittings, I might as well get on the master side. This is a 3/24 and it's for a brake line. So I need to get an adapter to change it to a AN3 line, or AN3 fitting, I mean. I also went through my bag of bolts that came with the transmission, and it's a mismatch. Like, I have 3 of these, which I'm pretty sure what attaches the pressure plate to the flywheel, but I need 6. So I could buy some, but I don't know if it's going to have the same size flange. This is a smaller flange than, say, this bolt, which is similar but not the same, that goes to the bell housing. And so these two, I'm not sure what they're for. But coming back here, even though I could probably get the right grade, which is 10.9, and the right size, maybe not the right flange, I might as well buy ARP bolts. Because I looked at GM bolts, and they're really expensive. It's actually cheaper for me to go ARP. So I think that's what I'm going to do, just to make sure it fits. And since it attaches to a rotating piece, I want to make sure it's the right bolts. I don't want to use the wrong ones and something catastrophic happens. And lastly, when I have all that and I want to attach the transmission to the engine, I have 5 of the same bolts, 2 of the same bolts, similar length, which is 40 mils, but the head is a 50 millimeter socket head, and that's a 13 millimeter socket head. So I have more of these, and I need 8, so I'll buy 3 of those along with the one that's missing for the bell housing to the transmission. Anyway, this is the fun stuff of doing a engine conversion, doing this custom work, but it's also frustrating and it can slow you down. But I have a game plan now. I just need to keep on moving forward. If I am slowed down, I'll look to see if there's something else I can do in the meantime. Okay, so I put an order for all the bits and pieces I need to make that clutch line, and another order for the pressure plate bolts that attach it to the flywheel. With that order, I also picked up some new flywheel bolts. It was going to cost me 20 bucks for the set of 6. I figure better safe than sorry to use brand new bolts, and it just gives me some peace of mind. What didn't work out is that I went to the bolt store to pick up some bolts that'll work with the bell housing, and it showed that they'd have 7 in stock. I needed to pick up 4, but when I got there, they couldn't find them. So I'll probably have to go to another location, but I'll have to do that another time. Which brings me to why I'm sitting here next to the firewall, next to this green spot. And for those that have watched the last few videos, you know that I've been doing a lot of body work and painting, and there's just one little spot that I had to redo because I was welding on one of the under dash supports, and which meant I had to sand off the paint that was here and do some welding, and then I just covered it with primer. So now what I want to do is finish that off. And if you watch my videos, you know that I've done a lot of this type of work. You're probably bored of it, so I'll throw up a timestamp of what you could fast forward to so you can actually skip this. But if you're new to the channel, welcome. And what I'll do is I'll walk through the steps that I'm going to do, and while I'm doing this walkthrough, you'll see video of the future pop up of me doing all those steps. And for those that are interested in going back and watching the videos related to bodywork and paint, I'll put together a playlist and make sure that is up before this video is actually live. So it should be there while you're watching this. So here's what I'm going to do. First step, I'm going to sand this all down with 150. Then I'm going to use Bondo for, I'll call it the second last time. And I'll mix up a little bit, spread that on, let that dry, sand that down with 80 and 150, and then mix up for the last time I'm ever going to use Bondo. In the future I'll use something else, and put a second skim coat, let that dry, sand it with 180, 220, then mask everything up, prime it once again, let that dry, sand it with 400, remask everything again, paint it because I actually still have in a spray can the paint that I used to paint the firewall. And once that's flashed off enough, I'm going to put something like 3, maybe 4 layers of a 1K clear coat. Once that's dry, I'm going to take off the tape and leave it. There is going to be a ridge, I know that, but if I start sanding that down, then I'm going to have to cut and polish everything. If I start doing that one area, it's going to look better than the rest. I'm going to start to do everywhere. So I'd rather just leave it as is. Yes, there's going to be a bit of a ridge. If it bothers me or annoys me in the future, I'll address it then, which is why I want to actually put more clear coat so I can kind of smooth down that lip without actually really digging into it. So here's the before shot and an after shot. Well, not the best repair job, but at least there isn't a gray rectangle there anymore. It's interesting that the color is different. It is the spray can that I used on the firewall before, but it is a different clear coat. And I did add an extra layer of clear coat on it. So I wonder if that's what's causing the difference in the color there. Also, you do see a border. I knew that would happen. Once I put on the tire, once I have the fender, a lot of that's going to be hidden. And again, I want to focus on what I need to do in order to get the truck on the road so I could drive it up and down my street, which means sanding, buffing, polishing, or even repainting this area is not worth it at this time. I'm still waiting on some parts, but there's a bunch of little things I could start doing, so let's get to them. There's one thing that I want to show you. Over here, this is for the brake booster, so the vacuum to assist in the braking, but I have a hydro boost, so I need to plug this up. I don't have a vacuum plug that's this big. I think it's about a 1/2 inch OD, maybe a little bit bigger than that. But originally, I thought the hydro boost still had a little bit of vacuum operated, so I had an adapter that went through this bigger piece that then stepped down to where I thought would connect with the hydro boost system, but that's actually the low pressure return line. So I ended up capping that off here, but now if I had this still on, it'd be flopping around. So what I'm going to do is keep this adapter, because then I actually have a vacuum plug that I can use, and just cut it back so I have enough length to put it onto this end. It'll be sealed and it won't flop around. All right, off camera I spent some time cleaning up the engine, even getting rid of a lot of that carbon buildup that was around the exhaust ports, and tried to clean up the transmission. Some of this I think is just corrosion, probably from somebody driving it in Canadian winters. Anyway, I think it's fine. It's better than it was, which is always great. Okay, on my pilot bearing removal tool, the way it works is there's a screw in here, so as I tighten it, this will spread open. Then I have a slide hammer that attaches to that, and I should be able to slowly pull it out. I've heard these things can break. This is a Chinese part, so it's not probably best quality, but it was the right price, and I don't have a slide hammer, and it came with one, which I could use for other parts of the truck that I'm going to need it for. So I figured it's worth trying. It was under 20 bucks. So let's see. Let's hope for the best. Okay, it's grabbing on. Let's go a little bit more without breaking it. Maybe I try first. I'm gonna try like that. I'm gonna be doing this gently since it's my first time. So if you're yelling into the screen saying just pull it harder, sorry, I don't want to break anything. Not looking good. Let me play around with it. Okay, here's where I'm at. I did a lot of, I'll call it trial and error off camera. And what I ended up doing is I bought a different pilot bearing puller. And this is 2 jaws and then it spreads open. But I read online that it won't fit within this pilot bearing. So what other people have done is knock out the pin, and then you could kind of fandangle the one kind of hook and then the other one and slide it in. But it wasn't working either, so I tried another method, which is taking the one arm that's there and then getting a screwdriver and pushing it as I was pulling it. And all that was doing was popping out all of the needle bearings. But I think that gave me a little bit more clearance to get the second arm in. And I just used the punch that I used to get the pin out just to hold it in, because there was no way I was going to push that pin back in while it's floating. The second thing I did is I had to get a different slide hammer. The one that I had that came with that other kit, the thread was wrong and it wasn't that big. So I rented from Canadian Tire a slide hammer that will work with this, and it's also 5 pounds, so it's heavier. I started working on it and it's starting to move, so I figured I'll start rolling the camera and show you me hopefully getting the rest of that pilot bearing out. There we go. That was not fun, but it's out. You can see it didn't hook up on the back. It actually hooked up where the needle bearings were. So getting those needle bearings out actually made my life easier. And some good news, that oil galley plug is in the right spot. It was not shifted when I tried the oil method to pop out the pilot bearing a few years ago. So I'm good to pop in the new pilot bearing. Okay, so this is how I'm going to go about installing the pilot bearing. Inside, I can see there's already grease from the factory, but on the back side, there wasn't that much. It was more to the front of the bearing. So I figured I just put a very, very light skim coat of grease. I don't want to put too much because otherwise it will fling everywhere and get on the clutch. The way I'm going to install it is use a socket. This is a 15/16 because it sits decently on there, and then there'll be a lip so that I won't go further than this area here. I want to make sure that it doesn't go past basically the lip that I'm pointing at right now. So let's get this installed. All about making sure it's straight. Trying to figure out how to straighten this out because it looks like it's going a little crooked. There, that's it. I'm going slow, just to make sure. So close. That was my thumb. That hurt. Alright, I don't want to have to do that again for a long time. The thumb still hurts. So one thing I found is that there are these holes here and over here, and the equivalent on the transmission bell housing that I didn't know what went in there. So a little bit of research, it's locating dowels, and I just didn't have them on hand. And instead of buying them, I drew up what I needed them to be and took them to my friend's place and had him machine them on his lathe and got them done in one day. So now I have some locating dowels for the transmission to the engine. So I'm going to press those into the engine itself because it seems like this is a little bit tighter fit than the equivalent on the bell housing. At first I put them in the bell housing this way and marked how much this side needs to go into the engine block so that it doesn't stick and interfere with the transmission. So as long as I get it past this line, I'm good, but I'll probably go maybe center a little bit further more. It's in all the way. Enough meat for it to get into the transmission. All right, so I think the next step is to get the flywheel on. I have some new bolts for them, so let's get started. It says to torque it in 3 stages, first stage being 15 foot-pounds. I don't know if you could hear that, but there's a blizzard happening outside of my garage. Snow's just pounding on the garage door. Next up, 37. Glad I have these dowels here. And the last pass is at 74 foot-pounds, which is already done because I thought I was recording, but I wasn't. Anyway, same thing. Hold the flywheel against the dowel with the pry bar and torque it to 74 foot-pounds. Well, the next step would be to put on the clutch and the pressure plate, except I don't really like the way the surface looks, so I may scuff it with something like 120 or 80 grit. I'll have to do a little bit of research, but I have to save that for next video. On that note, I'm going to end things off here. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed what you're seeing, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, share with other people, and don't forget to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Those links are in the description. We'll see you next time. Quick sneak peek for the next video. These just came in, which means in the next video, we'll be building a clutch line.